All right, so with me, two of the gentlemen that helped start it all, Lance Wallnau and Pastor Hank Kuhneman. Welcome, gentlemen. You had no idea this would still be going. Did you, Lance?
No, I didn't, Gene, to be honest with you. That first broadcast we did was experimental. Then we would talk to each other and say, hey, do you think we're going to keep this going? And, of course, Donald Trump provided endless opportunities for news coverage. And so
yes,
it seems as though we've been inextricably woven into this chapter of his life from the beginning.
All right, so let's go back to episode 1 with Lance Wallnau. Let me place, this is, when we found this today, I got to say, I was surprised and very happy with what I saw. Watch. Lance Wallnau, he's joining us with us via fiber. Lance, welcome to the program.
It's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. Listen, if those of you may have watched us on Revival Radio TV as we launched out and started introducing you to who Lance Wallnau really was, Lance, I'm going to ask you to do the impossible and talk about the 7 mountains in a minute or less. Go.
Yeah, sure. So when the children of Israel had to go to the Promised Land, they went in and they had to dispossess 7 nations greater and mightier than them. And that would be their domain. Jesus said, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. There are 7 nations greater and mightier than us that must be penetrated. That is going to be with the religious sphere, the church must be dominant. Family, education, government, media, entertainment, and business. If Christians go into all the world and go into those systems, they'll be the head and not the tail, above and not beneath, and nations will be discipled in our lifetime.
Okay, Lance, is it really that easy that if Christians or believers get out there and really take over? Because, you know, you're looking at generations here that we've been the rapture generation. We're just trying to hang out and hold on till the rapture happens.
Yeah, well, it's worse than that, actually. We're not in danger of taking over. We're in danger of being taken over by somebody else. We have so disengaged the idea of being salt and light in transforming the world that is here, that we've allowed other people to take over the high places, the gates of influence that have shaped culture entirely. And so the great danger is that Christians are only now waking up to the fact that they're on board a flight where they need to be in the cockpit flying and navigating, or they end up being the hostages of somebody else, flying the plane.
All right, so Lance, you know, you got to be, from the very beginning, I wasn't giving you enough time to answer your question.
I can't believe you did that to me in our first interview. I'm offended now that you did it to me. Lance, you got a minute. Explain your entire 7 mountains and
the economic plan going forward for America. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wasn't it. Then episode 3. Pastor Hank joined. Now, this was with great concern, much prayer, fasting, relighting of candles. We had Lance and Hank on the same program. All right, now, in all seriousness, I want you to hear what Lance said 4 years ago. This was quite something. Watch. If you just go back through history with what Joe Biden has said, he changes every time the wind changes. I mean, he was pro-life, now he's pro-choice. Comment, what do you think?
Yeah, everybody's focusing on Joe Biden. It's President Kamala Harris that you have to be looking at. She was brought in as his vice presidential candidate, though she had not even made it in her own party past the primaries. And I was so shocked because I said that she was going to be the one that was going to be the primary presidential candidate that was going to try to get into the White House.
Well, you know, I want to go back to something that I think was so profound that Lance had said, you know, when he called her, you know, Kamala Harris, mentioned the presidential, you know, title. I had a dream back in 2016, and this is why this is so important, and this is a documented dream where right after President Trump won the election, they were very upset, and that's what the dream showed, and they called you know, Hillary Clinton in a room. There was sitting at a table George Soros and his sons were there. Obama was there. Bernie Sanders was there. Kamala Harris was there, and Hillary Clinton. And they looked Soros and his sons looked to Kamala Harris and said, "You're the one that we're going to look at," because we saw how close we were to a woman becoming a president of the United States. We also understand that America elected a black-skinned president, or one that has a darker skin. We also have you represented, Kamala, because we need the California vote. We need the electoral, and that's what she represented. And in the dream, also, we need you to represent Bernie Sanders' connection with socialism. So I look at, when he mentioned about you just lost it, is because, listen, there is a progressive, Democratic movement who obviously is not the Democratic Party that Biden represents. So they're going to try to push their agenda.
Guys, look at that. 4 years ago, you both were calling it out just what it was. Pastor Hank, let's go back to that. Do you remember that episode?
Well, I don't remember the episode. I remember the dream, but it really is all playing out. And even what Lance was, prophetically saying. And that's what I love about FlashPoint is from the start, God was speaking through this program, revealing what his intent would be, but also what the plans of the enemy have been. So I think from the start, this program has been a tremendous voice of truth, voice of hope, but also the voice of the Lord. And so that's what I can say about what I just saw. But I did like Lance's shirt combos there. I noticed he kind of slid into the whole tide thing now in the current season that we're in now.
Yeah,
and my collars got higher.
Yes, they did. Lance, did you remember saying that back then?
My gosh, my staff told me, I said, President Kamala Harris, keep your eye on her. That's the dark horse. It's not Biden. And I remember, I told my friends in private that because, listen, I don't want to discourage my peers. I'm fighting against principalities to see Donald Trump succeed. But I did see that. I saw Kamala Harris as being the one that the devil was going to use to push through the White House. And that I saw that early on. And I actually had a vision, which I thought was a warning from the Lord, of her at an inauguration. And she had a Bible, and she had done something like put a Hindu prayer book with it. And it was like she did an inauguration and was putting her hand on a modified Bible as part of her. And the Lord told me back then, he said that is how the devil intends to bring in the destruction of this country. It's the final phase. And so when she failed, Gene, in the primaries, to be able to even get to survive. Remember, she was running against, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, and all of them. Out of 6 candidates, she screwed up so badly she didn't get on. Then when Biden announced that she was his VP pick, I got a cold chill, and I said, my gosh, that was what I saw. And I honestly believe, folks, I believe that this that wasn't a prediction of the future, or God wouldn't have us doing the Courage Tour and doing the work we're doing, going out in I'm getting slammed all the time. Gene, I don't know if you saw, but Newsweek is hitting me this week as the right-wing Christian nationalist spokesman. We're the nation's balancing like this. You got a second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. I believe if we, the remnant, will push this thing through in fasting and prayer, that we could shift this nation into a season of just extended mercy and warfare. But it isn't like, from the beginning, FlashPoint hasn't been remarkably prophetic in spite of its opposition. We've hit it.
That's true. All right, since you brought that up, I want to go to that, Lance, and let's talk about what's happening right now with the Courage Tour. There's a group that's posted this: "Don't let false prophet Lance Wallnau promote political violence in Pennsylvania." And these guys are actually trying to get a petition signed to get the event kicked out there in Pittsburgh. Of course, I personally think it's because I got invited, and it's because of me. Fine. I get on the last one.
Gene.
Yeah.
I have to say, I haven't received this much persecution until you got an invitation to come join it.
You're welcome.
And this is Newsweek, ladies and gentlemen, and they're looking for 15,000 weak woke-a-doke is what Mario calls them, Christian leaders who are going to sign a petition. I think you all ought to go to thecouragetour.com and sign your own name, thecouragetour.com, because they're trying to get 15,000 to shut us down, Gene. They don't want us in these states.
Yeah.
They're afraid of us.
They are afraid of us. So that's exactly what you need to do. Put that there. There it is, thecouragetour.com, and let your voice be heard. This is the whole reason we're here, to be able to talk about what's really going on. And thank you. I plan on being there, so don't get anything canceled. So I plan on. So recently this weekend, actually, we were in Omaha, Pastor Hank. We started off the Opening the Heavens conference and really got things kicked off with FlashPoint Thursday night, and then it really moved into there. But there was an interesting twist on the weekend. I don't want to say twist, maybe it's not the right way. What really came out is about, which was Robert Henderson, about the course of heaven, and that was strong, Hank. It's very strong.
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention, just going back to the original thing that you played from the 2016 dream that I had. Did you notice something when I mentioned that they brought Kamala Harris in? Who was in that room? Remember, it was George Soros,
right,
and it was Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Obama. And notice Kamala never got any votes. So it shows you kind of who's pushing for this. But I want to talk about Omaha because it's very significant right now, where you probably, those of you that are watching, have heard about the blue dot that they're talking about, that it could come down to Omaha, Nebraska, going blue. It could decide, the whole electoral college and the outcome of the election. But what we decided to do is hold this conference. We've been doing it 5 years now at the arena, Mid-America Center. And God was really beginning to move strong through that conference, Pastor Gene, if you remember. And we were praying for the protection of President Trump. We were praying for really this country and for God to literally execute his verdict over this election, over the things that are happening right now, and even the attempts of the enemy. And so I really believe that those verdicts have gone out. Now, what we need to do as the people of God is we need to not talk wrong. And I wanted to say this, Pastor Gene. The Lord woke me up at 3:37 last night, and I was wide awake, and I heard the voice of the Lord, and he said these words to me. He said, "Tell the people the enemy is trying to scare them and make them afraid by many, many events and even the future days. Don't fall for it." And then he gave me Ezekiel 12:21 through 27. And if you remember, those of you that know the scripture, I'll paraphrase it very quickly, is there was a moment where they were beginning to doubt the word of the Lord, the people, and they were calling it a proverb. And God said, you know what? Prophesy again and tell them that this that has happened, the word of the Lord is going to come to pass. And so we need to continue to pray what God has been saying, not only in his written word here, but also what God's been saying prophetically. And that's what we did at Opening the Heavens. And Pastor Gene, also, I thought it was very interesting. Do you remember I had that dream about a golf course? And I don't play golf, and I was playing golf, and I kept going in the bushes trying to look for the ball. This was Sunday morning, right before the second attempt on President Trump's life. And we stood Sunday morning and we prayed. And I'm telling you, a lot of things are happening. And I want to thank FlashPoint. I want to thank Brother Copeland as well. I want to thank you, Pastor Gene, for giving me this opportunity, because it is this particular program that is making a difference, as well as the FlashPoint live events that's turning our country around.
Yeah, sure is. Amen. Amen. We're thankful to be a part. All right, so since you brought this up, this is a great time. Let me go to this clip about the latest electoral map at the end of the report. Notice what they said about Omaha. Watch.
You probably know it, Dana, but I'm going to show you three things real quick, okay? Overnight, USA Today, Suffolk, new poll in Pennsylvania, Harris at 49, Trump at 46. I would take note of this right here. Margin of error, 4.4%, and that means this race in Pennsylvania, according to this polling now, is still a flat-out tie. Here are the battleground states that we see. Carolina, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona. We changed it last week. It hasn't changed as of this week. Pop on out here, show you why Pennsylvania is so important. Then I'm going to give you a quick little 270 map to find out how each campaign most easily succeeds. So Trump in North Carolina wins it by 1.4 percentage points, 74,481 votes, wins North Carolina. Okay, go back to 2016 against Hillary Clinton. His margin was 177,529 votes, 3.8 percentage points. We talked about this last week. Biden did better in 2020 than Hillary Clinton did in 2016. He drove up his numbers in the urban areas and he reduced the margin in rural areas, and that's why it got closer, but still not good enough for Joe Biden 4 years ago. Now, here we go on the path to 270, okay? Going to set up your little panel coming up here in a moment. As it stands today, Donald Trump's easiest path to victory to go back to the White House is pretty simple. If you're at 219 here, you win North Carolina and hold that state. You flip Georgia and you flip Pennsylvania, and boom, you're at 270. Take these off the board and let's go to Kamala Harris and her campaign. Her easiest path as of now at 225 is to win Wisconsin, win Michigan, hold Pennsylvania, and then take Nebraska 2 out there, and she is at 270. That's as simple as we can do it. Who knows what happens on the 5th of November?
All right, so I know, Lance, you think this is close. I know that there are competing polls now saying that Trump's actually he's leading in Pennsylvania. I'm questioning everything and the validity of any of these polls, because so many of them show within the margin of error, which means it's basically null and void, in my opinion, when the difference is between the margin of error. But when you see that, you still really believe, Lance, that we're really this close in America? That many people are split?
Yeah, and it's not rational, of course, for you and me. But then again, you look at after the midterms, why do we keep thinking it's a red wave? Because those of us that live within the news cycle, especially conservatives, are informed. You look at Afghanistan. I thought the Afghanistan debacle would surely be a veto on the Democrats in office. It didn't. It didn't have that result in Congress. Doesn't have that result in the Senate. And the way that America is set up it's unfortunate, but you can have all these red counties, thousands of red counties out there, which is where you and I were. Christianity is the strongest. Then you go in towards the urban centers, the coastal regions. This is where the left wing is the strongest. The problem is these are population-dense areas. So the cities, from a spiritual or Pentecostal point of view, the principalities and powers are concentrated over Washington, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, and meanwhile, but you get away from there, and you've got where we are, we're more in the rural areas. So the nation is balanced between the rural and then these heavily populated city areas. That's why the Electoral College comes in. But the truth is, and to encourage our people, all of these polls that are done are typically 4 points off on Trump. So when you see Trump under Harris or even tied, add 2 or 3 points to it, because Trump has more points than they're showing. And that's what keeps a lot of us sane when we look at the polling data. We know it's traditionally usually 3 to 4 points off against Trump. And so that's what we're looking at. But, it has to be, like he said, too big to rig. The only way you could beat the fact that we don't know the illegal factor. I mean, you got 20 million illegals in here. You think they're here because the Democrats got them in by accident? They're here because they want to be able to get them in for votes. So we have to be very judicious on protecting the vote this time.
Yeah, Pastor Hank, you had a thought.
I have to go back to what I felt like the Lord spoke to me at 3:37. People are afraid. They hear these polls and they immediately go into fear, panic. And I want to say this, what keeps coming up in my heart is there is an example when Satan moved upon the King David, to number the children of Israel. And God was very upset about it. And I'm not saying that there isn't any validity to the polls. What I'm saying is the devil is involved in the numbers. And I think you cannot trust it. I was polled once, and all the questions they were asking, I finally got frustrated because it was all geared towards the response that they wanted. Here's the greatest thing that you need to understand, those of you that are in fear when you hear about all these polls and it's going to come down to this and that. If you go back to 2020, all of that really didn't matter because we saw what happened like a lottery machine. All the numbers began to change right before our eyes, and then they went and shut it down. Exodus 1 is probably the biggest thing we've got to consider, and that is when Egypt was under socialism and a harsh absolute season, they kept growing. And I think people have said enough is enough, and no poll is going to be able to determine the amount of people who are going to vote their pocketbook and jump on the Trump train. And I think it's going to make a difference that's going to put this nation over into victory. Again, God said, draw near to him and bind the thief. And that's what I'm looking at, not the polls.
That's right. And it doesn't mean we give up and go, oh, it's already done. No, we have a responsibility to walk it out. Keep your foot on the gas. Keep doing what you're doing, America. We're going to see the nation turn back to God. All right, let me show you this. We briefly touched on this last night, the ABC News debacle with the debate. Here's the breaking news. ABC News whistleblower swears under penalty of perjury that Kamala Harris campaign dictated the terms of the questions during the presidential debate. ABC News whistleblower says that. Furthermore, the Harris campaign insisted upon live fact-checking of Donald Trump during the debate. ABC fact-checked Trump at least 5 times and did not fact-check Harris 1 time, despite the Democrat candidate telling provable lies such as the fine people hoax and the bloodbath hoax, et cetera, et cetera. We've talked about that. The whistleblower signed the affidavit in New York, sent a copy to Speaker Mike Johnson. The notarized document states, the unnamed individual states, he or she is in possession of secret recordings that will prove that ABC News rigged the presidential debate. If so, ABC News committed election interference. This is a massive scandal. And then there's some copies of the actual documents that were filed. Lance, when you hear all this, this could be a devastating blow to ABC News. If this is truly proven beyond a shadow of a doubt of what happened, this would be devastating to David Muir, and I can't see any way to get out of that without a total turnover of people there as well. What's your thoughts?
I'd like to talk to somebody who's an attorney on what the legal ramifications are for rigging a presidential debate. I'm sure that the RNC could sue the network for bad faith and something in terms of, like, imagine they're doing one debate and the debate was completely manipulated so that, as I said from the beginning, Kamala Harris will have the questions in advance. She'll have the answers in advance. She will have at least 17 points that are erroneous that she'll be confident will not be interrupted or fact-checked, but Trump will be deprived of the ability to talk about anything positive about himself, including they interrupted him when he talked about his own assassination attempt. Remember that? He said, listen, the rhetoric's got to tone down. They said, oh, we have other things we have to talk about. We can't be sidetracked. So it's not going to affect the voting public. This is what the left doesn't care. The left doesn't care about how they cheat so long as they win. But what it does do is I pray to God that it puts a final stake in the heart of this ridiculous compromise in the Republican Party, which is why do 2 equal parties of equal power agree that they're going to come under the left-wing secular authority for every debate? Why is it that it's ABC and 2 leftists that get to manipulate the debate? The producers, friends with the Harris campaign, introduced her to her husband. So they're all colluding together. Why do they agree to it? There's something sick. It's like why I say it's Ahab and Jezebel. Ahab is the spirit on the Republican Party. Jezebel's all over the Democrats. And that passivity and weakness that shows up among Republicans infuriates me. I want to see, so why can't we have, Dan Bongino and Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson do an interview with Kamala Harris? Wouldn't that be an interesting fact-check bonanza? They'd never agree to it.
No, without a doubt. All right, Pastor Hank, your thoughts on that debate before we go to break?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, I remember Lance's analysis. He nailed it before the debate. And I think he's got a great point. In all fairness, of the American people. They deserve a neutral site. They deserve to have better moderators. And I think, in all honesty, they ought to keep the media aspect out of the moderating it. Let it be somebody else and not one particular network, so to speak. But what I do believe is what I think is going to continue to play out. It's not just, we're going to find out, it's not just about the debate. We are going to continue to see a post-debate. We're going to see that thing begin to unwind, unravel, and I sense in my heart God is going to use this to do what Lance and I have said for 4 years on this program. I think there's a boomerang coming that's about to knock something out, and I think you're going to see the left begin to start backpedaling and look for another distraction.
Don't give up on the Constitution. Don't give up on this country. God has blessed us immensely. With that, happy Constitution Day, America. With me right now from Legislative Hall in Fredericksburg, Texas, Mark Meckler and Rick Green. Welcome, gentlemen. Tell us what's going on there tonight.
Hey, Gene.
We got a lot of FlashPoint Army here, Gene. A lot of FlashPoint Army in the room.
We're excited to be with you tonight, Gene. It's not only the nation's birthday for our Constitution, but obviously fourth birthday for FlashPoint. I love that you did that quote from Thomas Jefferson, even though, of course, he wasn't part of the Constitution. But that last line about public servants, normally this screen behind me has the painting of George Washington resigning after he won the war, something no one had ever done before. And it was Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Rush that said, we need to make a big deal out of that, and we need to have a big ceremony because it's never happened before. We need to remind people that's the American system. And the reason I put that painting up there whenever the students are in here debating or when we're doing different programs is to remind them what a public servant is, a patriot, instead of being a politician. So thank you for sharing that, Gene. Listen, everybody here wants to wish you and FlashPoint a happy birthday, so we're just going to sing happy birthday to you, and then we're going to hear from your friend President Trump also congratulate you and wish you a happy birthday.
So, ready?
Yeah, let's sing it, guys.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear FlashPoint. Happy birthday to you. All right, Gene,
Thank you.
and we now have a special greeting. Your good friend, the 45th President of the United States of America, has a birthday wish for you.
Well, I have to say I'm incognito right now because they're trying to shoot me all the time, right? But I wanted to wish you a happy birthday, a very fantastic happy birthday. 4 years, right? They said 4 more years, right?
That's
We're
right.
going to do probably 40 more years just to take off the Democrats. It's true. Everybody knows it. But happy birthday. You're fantastic. You're doing such a great job, and you're making our country so great. We are going to win like nobody else has won before, and it's probably a lot because of FlashPoint, okay? Happy birthday.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, thank you.
Hey, Gene, we love you, man. Thank you for all that FlashPoint is doing. Oh, you can stay up here with us. It's fine. Yeah. He might-
Don't keep Trump
Gene-
out. Keep Trump up there.
Trump all the time in there.
Nobody's
he
gonna
might
kill me
reveal
right
that-
now, huh?
Yeah. But seriously, Gene, we could not be doing what we're doing at Patriot Academy if it wasn't for the support of FlashPoint. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are looking forward to four more years and a whole lot more past that. But this celebration of your birthday and the celebration of our Constitution are directly tied together. So bless you guys, and thank you for all that you do for Patriot Academy.
Gene, appreciate you guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Wow, Rick had a lot of people there. Way to go, Rick and Mark. Didn't know they had it in them. So you see, this is what happens. Constitution Day, Lance. I'll give you a chance to comment on it first.
Well, first of all, Gene, it's, Rick does have this big ministry. You realize we do things when we're not on FlashPoint, right? Are you surprised?
Really?
See, he's got a group of people. You act like, oh, look, he's got people in the room. Yes, Gene, we do things when we're not with you. Anyway, yes, Constitution Day. Who would have known? I didn't know it was Constitution Day. Did you know it was Constitution Day?
When we started, no, I did not.
I'll tell you what, though. I listened to David Barton on Real America's Voice, and he talked about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And you know, don't you feel like when you're with Rick Green and these guys, Gene? I mean, we know something, but these guys are like so amazing. Here's a statement that blew my mind, that between 1790 and 1850, that the founders and the next generation had called America to prayer or prayer and fasting by a special proclamation 1,400 times.
That's right.
From 1790 to 1850, you talk about Christian influence in America's founding. 1,400 times the government made a special call or proclamation for prayer. That tells you why we've got to get back into our roots.
That's exactly right. Pastor Hank, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, what Lance just said is amazing. 1790 to, what was it again? I really need to get that down.
1790 to 1850, over 1,400 times the government called the nation to prayer.
Unbelievable.
And fasting. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, you know what, Pastor Gene, first of all, I thought it was great with Rick Green, and to hear Mark Meckler sing, I was hoping that the producers would have been able to mute it and put somebody else's voice in and lip sync it or something. But anyway, great Trump impersonator. I think I'm done impersonating President Trump after that. That was amazing. I think I'm going to maybe stick to Ronald Reagan. But I want to make a point.
Go.
I really do. Here's my point. Somebody at the conference that we just had talked about how, we've been talking about how there's a great reset taking place. But I think it's really amazing. They said it's not just a great reset, but because of our great Constitution and we, the people, like Lance has been saying, the populist movement, we are part of not only a great reset, but a great set. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see play out, that I don't think there's any poll that's even reflecting that. We're going to see it show up, I pray, at the voting booths.